Hello everybody, this is Professor Advait from Harvard University, and today I'm going to introduce you to void methods. Before we get started, you're gonna need to know three things: how to create objects, how to create a constructor, and how to create instance variables. Alright, with that out of the way, let's begin. Methods are used to create an object's behavior. They are blocks of code that, when called upon, perform an action. Think of them like instructions that tell CodeHS to do something. For example, let's say I want to change the width of a rectangle. I would call a method, and it reassigns the width to a new number. Okay, in case you're wondering, here is the exact syntax needed to create methods. The public is the visibility modifier. For our current uses, just set it to public. The static is completely optional. Don't worry about it. You do not need to type it. The next part is the return type. It specifies the type of what is being returned. It can be an int, a string, a double, and many more. It can also be void, which means that nothing is returned. The method name is the name of your method, which you probably could have guessed. Make sure to use the same naming convention that you use when naming variables. And lastly is the list of parameters. Parameters are data that can be passed into the method for our usage. They are optional. You don't need to have any. Oh, and don't forget, all your code should go between the curly brackets, just like with the constructors. Calling methods are pretty simple. You just type the object name, your object, not the constructor name, then the method name, and lastly, any parameters that you have assigned. But remember, parameters are optional. You may or may not need them. Alright, so now that we know how to create and call methods, let's see them in action. As you can see, the methods will always be below the constructor. In this case, the methods allow us to greet the user in different languages. Now, you're probably wondering, how can the methods have variables in them but no parameters? And the answer is, methods can actually use instance variables initialized in the constructor. Now, let's look at how to call these methods. After using scanner to get the user's name, we create the greet object. And finally, at the very bottom, there they are, our methods. And that's it. Now, after running the main file, the users will be greeted in Russian, in German, and in Chinese. Alright, now my friend is going to come on and give you a live demonstration. Hello everybody, I am the literal campus of MIT, and I've come to give you a live demo of void methods. Now, as you can see, we've already created the object of rectangle, and I've called it R1. And this is what we have so far for the class. But I am here to teach you about void methods. And let's say I want to change the width, okay, without actually having to go back into the object, right? In order to change the width without going back and changing this value, we have to make a method, right? And so let's write the method. So the method, let's say it is alright, and as you can see, we have now created a method that will change the width of the rectangle to whatever width is specified as the parameter. So let us test this out in the actually one more thing, let's print it out as well. Okay, and that is done. So now let's go back and call our method. So let's do it here. Our method name is give width. It is give width. So we have to do object r1 dot give width, and we have to insert a new number. So let's do 7, not 78, 7. And when we run this, it will print out a new width. Originally, the width was 10. now it is 7. So yeah, and that is a simple live demonstration on how void methods work. This has been the literal campus of MIT, and I'm happy to give you this demonstration. Alright, I'm going to give it back to my Harvard professor now. Okay, that was weird. Moving on. There is one concept that you need to know: procedural abstraction. This concept just means to use somebody's code that we don't fully understand. The only thing you need to know is how to use it. In fact, y'all have been doing this with Scanner for quite a while now. We don't know who made the class, but we know how to create input objects and how to call its methods, which is all we need to know. One final thing. I know I touched on the void return type, but I'll explain it again in a bit more detail. Void simply means the method cannot return anything, which also means the method cannot be assigned to a variable. And that's it. We are finished. Only thing left to do is practice it yourself. So crack on, coders. And yes, I am the professor of coding in Harvard University. Those are my real credentials.